In school, American independence sounds like a straight road. But in 1776, it was a narrow bridge over a storm, and most people were not sure it would hold. Independence was not destiny. It was a gamble, and gambles can fail to understand why it was not inevitable. You have to imagine uncertainty as the normal air everyone breathed. You also have to remember that revolutions do not happen because they are supposed to. They happen because thousands of ordinary decisions finally tipped the scale. Before 1776, many colonists still saw themselves as British, not because they loved every policy, but because empire was the world they knew and a break felt like stepping into darkness. Britain was powerful, rich, and connected, and the colonies depended on that network for trade, protection, credit, and stability. For a merchant, independence could mean bankruptcy, and for a farmer, it could mean armies marching through his fields and taking his food. When your family's survival depends on predictable order, the idea of rebellion does not look romantic. It looks like fire near your home. Even the word independence sounded extreme to many people because it implied permanent war, permanent risk, and permanent uncertainty about what would replace the old system. So, if independence was not inevitable, what made it possible at all? The answer begins with a long buildup of mistrust, miscommunication, and pride on both sides of the Atlantic, where each new law and each new protest made the next compromise harder. After Britain's expensive wars, London wanted the colonies to help pay and follow tighter control, and many colonists felt like their rights were being reduced without their consent. At Edmonton, resistance had many forms, and most of them were still aimed at reform, not separation. Boycotts, petitions, assemblies, and pamphlets were attempts to pressure the system, not to destroy it. And that difference mattered, because as long as reform seemed possible, the majority did not need independence. And without a majority, revolutions Then came the deep fear that once power expands, it rarely shrinks again. And colonists started to worry that temporary control would become permanent rule. Britain, meanwhile, often saw colonial protests as a disorder that must be disciplined, because empires survive by showing that defiance has a cost. That created a spiral where punishment produced more resentment, and resentment produced more punishment. Still, even with growing tension, the bridge to independence could have collapsed, and there were many realistic paths where the colonies stayed inside the empire. If Parliament had offered a credible model of representation or autonomy, many leaders might have accepted it, because peace plus trade can be more attractive than war plus ideals. If Britain had chosen patience over force, the emotional temperature might have cooled, and revolutions usually fail when emotions cool. But violence entered the picture, and violence changes what people think is possible. Once shooting began, it created martyrs, fear, and momentum. And momentum is a kind of fuel that arguments alone cannot produce. Yet even after the first battles, independence was still not guaranteed, because war does not automatically create unity. And unity was the rarest resource in the colonies. The colonies were not one people with one identity. They were a chain of regions with different economies, religions, cultures, and priorities. Some areas were deeply tied to British trade. Some feared slave revolts, some feared native alliances, and some feared their neighboring colonies more than they feared London. There were loyalists in nearly every place, and they were not all villains. Because many genuinely believed rebellion would bring chaos and dictatorship, there were also people who wanted to stay neutral. Not because they were cowards, but because choosing a side could tear families apart and put homes at risk. So the revolution had to fight not only Britain, but also fear, doubt, and division inside its own society. Another reason independence was not inevitable is that the American military position was fragile, especially early on, when training, supply, and organization were uneven. Armies are expensive, and revolutions often die when money runs out before the enemy's patience does. Britain could replace ships and soldiers more easily than the colonies could, and it could attack coastal cities that depended on trade to survive. A few major defeats at the wrong time could have shattered morale, and morale is the invisible foundation that keeps a rebellion standing. If morale broke, the most common human reaction would be to seek safety, and safety would mean returning to the empire. This is why the Declaration of Independence was not just a philosophy text. It was a strategic move to shape morale and signal resolve. It turned a messy conflict into a clearer story, and stories can hold people together when reality tries to tear them apart. But a story still needs proof, and proof in war is victory, not words. Now add the most decisive factor that many people underestimate. Foreign help, especially from France, was not automatic, and without it, the revolution's chances fall dramatically. France did not support the colonies out of love for liberty. It supported them because weakening Britain was in France's interest. And interests can change if the colonies looked disorganized, divided, or likely to lose. France would be hesitant to bet money, ships, and reputation on a failing cause. So the revolution had to persuade France that it was worth investing in, which means the revolution had to look inevitable even when it was not. This is the strange paradox. To make independence real, leaders had to act as if it was already decided, because uncertainty scares allies away. Inside America, leadership itself was not guaranteed, because leaders argued, competed, and sometimes mistrusted one another, as happens in any political crisis. Even the Continental Congress was not a perfect machine. It was a crowded room of competing regions, trying to agree while the world watched. If that political center fractured, the rebellion could have turned into separate local conflicts, and local conflicts are easier for an empire to crush. Another reason independence was not inevitable is that daily life pulls people back to normality, because humans crave routine, and war destroys routine. Every month of conflict meant shortages, inflation, lost work, and fear, and those pressures can make freedom sound less urgent than stability. Britain understood this, and often aimed to outlast the rebellion, because time can be a weapon when your economy is stronger. The colonies also faced internal moral and political contradictions that could have destroyed unity, especially around slavery, property, and who counted as part of the political community. When a revolution claims universal rights but denies them to many, it creates a moral tension that opponents can exploit and supporters can argue over. Some people joined the patriot cause for ideals, but others joined for local power, land, hopes, or anger at elites. And those motives do not always cooperate. The British also offered alternatives, including protection for loyalists and sometimes promises of freedom to enslaved people who escaped and served, which complicated the battlefield. That meant the war was not just patriots versus redcoats. It was a multi-sided struggle where each group tried to survive and win advantage. In such a chaotic environment, independence could have been delayed, diluted, or reversed, depending on who gained control locally. You can also see how fragile the outcome was by noticing how often the revolution depended on timing, weather, leadership choices, and pure luck. A storm that saves a fleet, a delay that traps an army, a messenger who arrives late, or a commander who hesitates can redirect history like a small turn of a wheel. When people say independence was inevitable, they erase the reality that 1,000 small moments had to go the rebels' way, often enough to keep the cause alive. So what changed minds in 1776? If so many forces pulled toward caution, one major change was that people began to feel that the empire was no longer a protective parent, but a controlling authority that would not stop until obedience was complete. Another change was the rise of persuasive arguments that simplified the conflict into a moral choice. Because simple moral choices mobilize crowds better than complicated negotiations, Thomas Paine's style, and others like him, made independence sound like common sense rather than radical madness. And that rhetorical shift mattered. But even with powerful writing, it still required people to accept risk. And risk is easier to accept when you believe the other side has already closed the door. Many patriots came to believe that Britain would never treat the colonies as equal partners. And once that belief spreads, reconciliation becomes emotionally impossible. At the same time, the war created new experiences of shared struggle. And shared struggle can create identity faster than speeches can. When communities suffer together, they start to imagine a future together, and that imagination can become stronger than old loyalties. Still, even after declaring independence, the outcome remained uncertain for years, which proves again that the decision was not the same thing as victory. If Britain had offered a generous peace at a critical moment, or if American forces had suffered a catastrophic collapse, the political will for separation could have shattered. The revolution survived because enough people kept choosing the harder path, again and again, even when victory looked distant. That is why the real story is not, it had to happen, but it almost failed many times and survived anyway. And this is why America 250 is not just a party date on a calendar. It is a reminder that the nation began as a risk, not a guarantee. When you celebrate 1776, honestly, you are not forced to worship the past. You are invited to understand how fragile choices become permanent realities. You are also invited to see how the founding promise was bigger than the founding moment, because later generations kept testing whether the promise applies to everyone. Independence was not inevitable, but once the idea was written down and defended, it became a reference point that people could not fully erase. That is the power of a promise, because promises can outlive the people who first spoke them. So as the 250th anniversary approaches, the best way to honor history is to tell it like a human story of doubt, division, courage, and consequences. And if you want more scripts that cut through myths and explain the real mechanics behind famous events, like, subscribe, and join History Refuge.